Yakko, this is a kid's show. You can't just be calling the viewers hoes like that.
Do you know the names of the U.S. residents who then became the president?
Martin Van Buren was the first U.S.-born president. All of the presidents before him were born in Britain.
And got a view from the White House lieu of Pennsylvania Avenue.
Not all U.S. presidents lived in the White House. While George Washington might have oversaw the construction of the White House, he never actually lived in it himself.
George Washington was the first you see. He once chopped down a cherry tree.
The George Washington cherry tree story has been proven to be a myth by historians and by Mount Vernon and Washington's childhood home, Ferry Farm. The story was written by Mason Locke Weems to teach moral lessons to young Americans.
President number 2 would be John Adams, and then number 3.
Tom Jefferson stayed up to write a declaration late at night.
Thomas Jefferson spent 17 days writing the Declaration of Independence, not one night. Not to mention, he wasn't the only one who took part in writing the Declaration. He submitted the draft to John Adams and Benjamin Franklin, who made some changes and revisions to Jefferson's draft.
So he and his wife had a great big fight, and she made him sleep on the couch all night.
While this is a funny visual gag, this most likely did not actually happen, considering Jefferson's sleeping habits, his relationship with Martha, and her being seriously ill after giving birth.
James Madison never had a son.
While James Madison never had a biological son, he did have an adopted son from his wife named John Payne Todd.
And he fought the War of 1812.
James Madison never directly fought in the War of 1812, but he did oversee the war efforts as he was president of the U.S. during the war.
James Monroe's colossal nose was bigger than Pinocchio.
While James Monroe didn't actually have a bigger nose than Pinocchio, this was probably just meant to be a cartoony over-exaggeration, so I'll let this one slide.
John Quincy Adams was number 6, and it's Andrew Jackson's butt he kicks.
Andrew Jackson actually got more votes than John Quincy Adams in the 1824 election and was the only elected as president due to a decision from the House. So John Quincy Adams didn't really kick Andrew Jackson's butt.
So Jackson learns to play politics next time he's the one that the country picks.
Martin Van Buren, number 8 for a one-term shot as chief of state.
William Harrison, how do you praise? That guy was dead in 30 days.
Not exactly. He actually died about 32 days after becoming president of the U.S., making him the shortest-serving president in U.S. history.
John Tyler, he liked country folk.
And after him came President Polk.
Zachary Taylor liked to smoke.
Zachary Taylor did like to smoke cigars, but only when he was around other male smokers.
His breath killed friends whenever he spoke.
Epic Slayer guy said that he couldn't find any source that said that Zachary Taylor had bad breath, let alone breath so bad it makes you pass out or die.
1850, really nifty, Millard Fillmore's in.
Millard Fillmore is often considered one of the worst presidents in U.S. history by historians due to his policies on slavery, as well as being one of the least memorable presidents, as well as his association with the Know-Nothings and support of Johnson's Reconstruction policies. So I don't that nifty is a good word to describe him.
Young and fierce was Franklin Pierce the...
Franklin Pierce was getting close to being 50 by the time he was elected as president of the U.S., which is considered middle-aged rather than young by most people.
A man without a chin.
While this is factually inaccurate again, I believe this was just meant to be a cartoon goof, so I'll also let this one slide.
Follows next a period spanning 4 long years with James Buchanan. Then the South starts shooting cannon.
But those cannons were not being shot at James Buchanan, as he had already left office about a month before the American Civil War began.
And we got a civil war. A war down south of Dixie.
Up to bat comes old Abe Lincoln.
There's a guy who's really thinking.
The numbers that are shown here are pretty off. The Union had 20 free states and 4 pro-slavery states, while the Confederacy had 11 states. Not to mention, the numbers shown here add up to 31, while in reality, there were some more states involved than 31.
Kept the United States from shrinking, saved a ship of state from sinking.
Andrew Johnson's next. He had some slight defects.
Congress each would impeach.
And so the country now elects
Ulysses Simpson Grant.
The S in Ulysses S. Grant didn't actually stand for anything. The Simpson middle name was a mistake by a benefactor on his application form to West Point. The Simpson middle name came from his mother's maiden name. His birth name was Hiram Ulysses Grant.
Who would scream and rave and...
Ulysses S. Grant was actually considered a calm and composed person, especially during stressful situations such as battles. Many people noted his ability to stay collected even when chaos was going on.
While drinking whiskey, oh, the risky, 'cause he'd spill it on his pants.
There are no recorded incidents of Ulysses S. Grant spilling whiskey while he was president or while he was on a world tour.
It's 1877 and the Democrats would gloat.
This election actually happened in 1876, not in 1877.
But they're all amazed when Rutherford Hayes wins by just one vote.
The actual numbers were 185 votes for Rutherford Hayes versus 184 for Samuel Tilden, not 8-7.
James Garfield someone really hated 'cause he was assassinated.
Chester Arthur gets instated. 4 years later, he was traded.
For Grover Cleveland really fat. Elected twice as a Democrat.
But they were non-consecutive terms, and one of them was after Benjamin Harrison served as president of the U.S., so this sequence of events isn't completely accurate.
Then Benjamin Harrison, after that it's William McKinley up the back.
Teddy Roosevelt charged up San Juan Hill.
But this happened back in 1898, which was 3 years before Theodore Roosevelt became president.
And President Taft, he got the bill.
In 1913, Woodrow Wilson takes us into World War I.
The U.S. did not enter World War I until 1917. In fact, World War I in general didn't even begin until 1914. The U.S. was not involved in the Battle of Gallipoli in World War I. And the U.S. was not involved in the Battle of the Somme either. Nor was the U.S. involved in the Battle of Verdun either. In fact, all of the battles listed here, with the only exception being the Battle of Argonne, were all from before the U.S. even entered World War I at all. Not to mention, all of these battles, with the exception of the Battle of Gallipoli, which took place first from February 19, 1915 to January 9, 1916, are not in the order of when they happened. The Battle of Verdun happened second from February 21 to December 18 of 1916. Then the Battle of the Somme happened from July 1 to November 18 of 1916. And the Battle of Argonne happened last from September 26 to November 11, 1918.
Warren Harding next in line.
It's Calvin Coolidge, he does fine.
Calvin Coolidge's economic policies, as well as him ignoring multiple problems with the economy, such as rural poverty, contributed heavily to the stock market crash of 1929, and then the Great Depression, so fine, wouldn't really be a good word to describe his presidency.
And then in 1929, the market crashes and we fight.
It's Herbert Hoover's big debut. He gets the blame and loses too.
Herbert Hoover was not responsible for the Great Depression himself, although economic policies weren't really helping the situation, and the country's banks eventually collapsed and unemployment went way up, which led to shanty towns named Hoovervilles, to Hoover's dismay.
Franklin Roosevelt.
Well, I know there are people who would give this part of a mistake due to Franklin Roosevelt not actually having been on a flying wheelchair. This one is also probably just meant to be a goofy cartoon thing, so I'll let it slide.
President who helped us win in World War II.
No nukes were used Hitler in World War II. There were 2 that were dropped on Japan in World War II, but none in Germany.
Harry Truman, weird little human, serves 2 terms.
Harry Truman didn't serve 2 full terms. His first term started after Franklin D. Roosevelt died in 1945 and wasn't elected in his own right until 1948.
And when he's done,
It's Eisenhower who's got the power from 53 to 61.
John Kennedy had Camelot, then Lyndon Johnson took his spot.
Richard Nixon, he gets caught, and Gerald Ford fell down a lot.
But there is actually only one recorded case of him falling down. This happened back when he was visiting Austria in 1975 from a knee injury.
Jimmy Carter like campaign trips.
And Ronald Reagan speeches scripts.
Ronald Reagan did use quotes from movies like Back to the Future in his speeches, but his speeches weren't all just based off of movie clips.
All came from famous movie clips, and President Bush said, "Read my lips."
The phrase, "read my lips," no new taxes, was from before George H.W. Bush became president.
Now in Washington, D.C.,
There's Democrats in the GOP.
But the ones in charge are plain to see.
the Clintons, Bill and Hillary.
Hillary Clinton was not in charge of the U.S. during Bill Clinton's administration. At most, she held a ceremonial role to the U.S. government back.
The next president to lead the way, well, it just might be yourself one day. Then the press'll distort everything you say.
So jump in your plane and fly away.
Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.